This is Past Force.
The great epic of British literature that nobody ever speaks about is Shakespeare's history plays. At least they don't talk about them on the whole. Yeah, they talk about Richard III and how it's historically dubious.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of... This is not York. We are being betrayed. Quick, to the Tower.
And they talk about Henry V and how it's either pro-war or anti-war. But nobody ever talks about the history plays on the whole, the story they tell as a whole. Shakespeare spells it out in the first play, Richard II. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and talk about the death of kings. In a nutshell, that's the history plays. It's the death of kings. But under the surface, Shakespeare told us something else. Shakespeare gave us a warning. Subverting the status quo, riot, rebellion, revolution, never leads to anything good. And in the history plays we see this time and time and time again. We don't like this king, so let's get rid of him. Oh, we don't like what's become of this, let's get rid of it, let's change it. We don't like this king either, let's get rid of him. Again and again and again, we get a subversion of the status quo, and it only leads to more anarchy, to more chaos, and to more revolution and more attempts to subvert the status quo, getting worse and worse and worse each time, causing more problems until we get the moustache-twirling daddy-o of them all, Richard III.
Quick, to the Tower.
At the beginning, Henry Bolingbroke and the Earl of Mowbray, they're bickering, they're arguing. And John of Gaunt, he delivers one of the most famous speeches in Shakespeare. And he says, look at this beautiful island, look at what we've got. This seat of kings, this Eden, this demi-paradise. It's all going to shit because of the squabbling. And all the squabbling that follows, we see that in action. We see how things go to shit. We see what division and subverting the status quo and rebellion and revolution do. It never leads to anything good. And if we look at the subversions of the status quo that followed Shakespeare, the revolutions, the English Civil War, the French Revolution, complete mess. Shakespeare was proven right. Subverting the status quo, don't do it. At least not by rebellion or revolution, because that is just going to cause more chaos. Which brings me on to Brexit. We don't like the EU, so let's get rid of it. At least that was some people's argument. There were other arguments as well, but it was a rebellion, wasn't it? It was a kick in the teeth to the political elite. It was a revolution, an attempt at subverting the status quo. And as we've seen over the last couple of years, it's not led to anything good, has it? We've had more division. We've had political squabbling. We've had more and more problems arising. And now, Parliament is a complete mess with that beeping. Again, that beeping. And now, Parliament is a complete mess with Wurzel Gummidge sitting in 10 Downing Street trying to completely undermine democracy. The subversion of the status quo that was the EU referendum, that was the result. Shakespeare was right. it's not led to anything good. It's only led to anarchy and chaos and more attempts at revolution, more attempts to try and subvert the status quo. It's only going to get worse, according to Shakespeare. I mean, it could get worse if a no-deal Brexit comes through. We could end up with like in Shakespeare, a civil war. We could end up with something worse than a civil war. What's going to happen next? According to Shakespeare, the subversion of the status quo that we have had in the last few years within living memory, the EU referendum, is not going to be good. As to who the moustache-twirling daddy-o is, your guess is as good as mine.
Now we surrender our discontent to make glorious summer by this sun of... That be big again. Tit!
History! It's a thing of the past!
It's a thing of the past.